Camera generation is one of those metas in Geoguessr that you simply cannot avoid. I'm going to talk about how to recognize each camera type, which countries use each one, and some practical examples towards the end. So let's start off with the first one to learn, Generation 2. Recognizing it is very simple. This camera was used roughly between 2008 and 2011, so the overall quality is quite low, with text sometimes being hard to see. The other giveaway is that at the top and at the bottom of the screen, you'll see huge and perfectly circular blurs. And here's a map of which countries are covered by it. As the days go on, it keeps getting rarer and rarer. A way to remember where to find it is to think of the more well-off countries, like ones in North America, Oceania, and Western Europe. Now we have Generation 3, probably the gold standard of camera generation, since it had almost a decade-long lifespan. Recognizing it isn't as straightforward as Generation 2, but the quality is of course slightly better and it lacks the huge blurs. But it's also very desaturated and overall less vibrant compared to Generation 4, which we'll get into soon. Now, which countries have Generation 3 coverage? Well, almost every single country has it, besides the newest ones such as Qatar and Kazakhstan, and a few exceptions like Germany and several tiny countries like San Marino, Luxembourg and Monaco. Generation 4 will always stand out with its really high quality, even compared to Generation 3, and its noticeably high saturation. Countries always get updated coverage, so keep that in mind if you're watching this far in the future. As of now, there isn't really a pattern of which countries have Generation 4, but there aren't too many that they can't be memorized. As a general rule, almost every country that has Generation 2 also has Gen 4. So those are the big three important camera generations that you definitely need to know, but we haven't quite covered everything. I just wanted to quickly say any form of support on these videos is appreciated. Anyway, no, I didn't forget about Gen 1, but in 2024 you can easily play without ever seeing it. There's no real need to explain how to recognize it, but it may be useful to know where to find it. Those countries being the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, an incredibly small amount in Japan and Mexico, France, Monaco and Italy, specifically in the Provincia di Cuneo, which we've been in this entire time. Trackers aren't really a generation per se, but if you are playing duels on the world map, you will definitely see them a lot. Tracker is usually coverage that was taken by a person wearing a camera on their back, which means you'll find this away from roads or indoors. There are so many unique trackers which may be worth remembering, some of the most famous ones being Midway Atoll, the Pitcairn Islands and several Canadian trackers. What I wanted to quickly go over was countries that are only covered by tracker, and those are Nepal, Iraq, Mali, Pakistan, China, Afghanistan, Belarus, Lebanon, Egypt, Tanzania, Vanuatu, Madagascar and Costa Rica. A tracker camera can technically be attached to any vehicle, those being boats, camels, snowmobiles, and who knows what else. Lowcam simply refers to coverage that was taken with a shorter camera. This is only found in Japan, Switzerland, and Gen 4 Sri Lanka coverage. Speaking of Gen 4, I said it's the highest quality camera, but that doesn't mean it's the most recent one. I like to call this Gen 5, but you will most likely see other people call it something else. This camera is the result of Google Maps not wanting to spend very much money, or in the case of India, because of local rules, despite Apple magically being able to bypass them. But anyway, recognizing it is simple, it looks terrible, and it often has a huge blur which looks worse than the Generation 2 one. Big disclaimer for future viewers, because I guarantee there'll be many more in the future, but as of April 2024, this is found in Ecuador, Cambodia, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, that one road in Alaska, and it's the only coverage found in India and Sao Tome and Principe, which has to take the trophy of being the country with the absolute worst looking coverage. So as I said at the beginning, we're going to be going over just a couple of examples towards the end just to prove how important it is to know camera generation. So let's briefly talk about the round. We see quite a lot of mountains in the background. We have right-hand drive and double center yellow lines. All of this being extremely American, specifically Central and South American. Now, this is going to be generation 4 because we have some text over here, very easy to see. It's nice and saturated. There's no huge Gen 2 blur or anything. So this is a standard generation 4 round. And this region of the world has a very nice split between who uses only Gen 3 and who also has Gen 4. Where can this not be because this is generation 4? Well, it can't be Guatemala, it can't be southern Chile or Argentina, can't be Uruguay, can't be Bolivia, and can't be Ecuador because Ecuador has only got Gen 3 and the amazing Gen 5 coverage. So that leaves us with Mexico, Panama, Colombia, Peru, and northern Chile and Argentina. Oh yeah, and Brazil, of course. And we can also eliminate Panama. I didn't really talk about it in the main part, but Panama uses a tracker camera but on a pickup truck. This is found in Panama, the UAE, Kazakhstan, and Qatar. So yes, so it's not going to be Panama either, although I mean, that is technically Gen 4. So the only realistic options, I think we can also exclude Argentina and Chile with this landscape. That only realistically leaves us with Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. Now, there is more to camera generation than only which countries use each one. For example, Brazil, I can for the most part eliminate Brazil because I think it would only be one of the Amazonian kind of places, and there's a lack of Gen 4 in regions like Roraima and Amazonas and Acre and stuff like that. So we're also going to eliminate Brazil, leaving us with Peru and Colombia. And I know a lot of you may know where this is already just by spawning in, but the point is to prove how you can solve things with just camera generation. If we just turn around now, we can immediately tell where we are just by the crosses and the yellow plates. So this is very good for speed guessing because it enables you to eliminate so many options just instantly, allowing you to be able to guess that much quicker. Bit of a different round this time. With these very tall and thin trees, I can confidently say we're going to be somewhere in the very northern hemisphere, and also the Americas because of these slightly thin dash yellow inside road lines, not really the style you'd find in Norway or anywhere else in Europe. So that leaves us with Canada or Alaska, I would say. And unlike the last round, I know this is quite gloomy weather, but everything looks a little bit more desaturated. We don't have the standard Gen 4 Google car blue or anything. So this time we're going to be in Gen 3. And I chose this region in particular because northern Canada especially only really likes to use Generation 2 and Generation 4. So already that inclines me not to go there. But also Alaska. Actually, no, the US in general does not like to use Gen 2 at all. I think only 0.1 of all American coverage is Generation 2. So just by process of elimination and a tiny bit of luck, I think it's more likely for this road in particular to be Alaska over Canada. That's not to say you cannot find Gen 3 in Canada, and there is in northern Canada, and there is a tiny bit of Gen 2 in Alaska, but I also know that this road going fairly northish is this one, which is all in Gen 3. Ending it off on an Asian round, and for demonstration purposes, let's just say we could be anywhere on the western half of the continent. So let's go over step by step what we can eliminate. So this is going to be generation 4. We have the typical Gen 4 car blur. Everything is nice and saturated and high quality. So that already eliminates a bunch of places because South Korea, Laos, Cambodia, well, we all know the India coverage, Bhutan, all of those are gone because they only have Gen 3, or in India's case, they only have Gen 5. So that's already a lot gone, but also just because of how everyone is driving, we're going to be driving on the right. So that also eliminates Thailand, Indo, Malaysia, and Bangladesh. Also, just on a separate note, if you're in Malaysia and you see Gen 4, you can only be on the peninsula, as of now anyway. So we went from having the entire continent, well, the entire half of the continent, oh yeah, and also Mongolia only has Gen 3. So we went from having the half of the continent to only being realistically left with Taiwan and the Philippines, which makes things a lot easier to guess, I would say. However, if you just turn around for a split second, we can see the Chinese, so that confirms we're going to be in Taiwan. And that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching. This one was quite the battle to make, so for this time in particular, any form of support is appreciated, and I'll see you soon.